Okay, let's go back to that David Eby clip once again, where the Premier of British Columbia expressed his displeasure with the meetings between Alberta separatists and the Trump administration.
But to go to a foreign country and to ask for assistance in breaking up Canada, there's an old-fashioned word for that, and that word is treason. It is completely inappropriate to seek to weaken Canada, to seek to go and ask for assistance to break up this country from a foreign power. And with respect, a president who has not been particularly respectful of Canada's sovereignty.
There will no doubt be some who will cheer on Eby's words and others who will be dismayed. Let's get the perspective of a criminal defense lawyer in Calgary, Greg Dunn. Greg, thanks for joining us. Treason is a pretty serious accusation. What do you think of Eby's choice of words?
Well, I'd say at a minimum they're hyperbolic and fairly sensationalist. I mean, calling a good old-fashioned treason, it's really nothing of the sort. Definitely not treason, given what I know about the interactions of the individuals. You know, treason is a very specific and tightly construed offense in the Canadian Criminal Code. And it really involves allegations of armed insurrection, supporting armed forces during the course of war, plotting to kill the Queen, seeking or meeting with American authorities to secure a credit facility. It just doesn't fit the criminal definition of it. So there's no chance that there's a treason allegation here.
So, you know, you're a lawyer and you went to your criminal code and took a close look at the sections on high treason and treason. Eby used to be a lawyer, but I mean, he's a politician now. Do you think it's okay to use that word in non-lawyerly conversation?
Well, you know, he is a former prosecutor, so it does surprise me that he goes to this sort of hyperbolic and sensational parlance in calling this treason or good old-fashioned treason. You know, as lawyers, we try to be careful with our words, and we try to talk judiciously, and we try to talk conservatively. So it looks like he's made the switch from lawyer to politician quite well. But yeah, I am a little surprised with respect to this choice of words and parlance in that respect.
Now, he's talking about Canadians, Albertans, who have gone down to the United States, met with government officials, contemplating what might happen if there were a referendum, if there were a vote for Alberta to leave Canada, and what would happen after that. How would you describe that conduct?
Well, it would be more aptly described as citizen diplomacy. You know, there is in other countries. So, for example, in the United States, they do have an act called the Logan Act, which criminalizes actions of citizens who go and conduct diplomacy without the proper authorities of the United States. So I would say it's unauthorized diplomacy, but there's no law against it in Canada. We do not have the equivalent of the Logan Act here in Canada.
One of the reasons we wanted to talk to you is that you do have expertise as a criminal defense lawyer, but you're also an Albertan. And so wear that hat for us for a moment. Less a lawyer, more a resident, a citizen of Canada, resident of Alberta. What kind of impact do you think Eby's words, if any, will have in your province?
Well, you know, contrary to what a lot of people think, a large portion of the separatist movement are not radicals. They're not radicals. They're not extremists. They're not militia people. They're ordinary working people that, are just kind of frustrated with the Federation. And Eby's comments really, I think, are just going to harden those soft separatists into almost a game on sort of mentality. And I don't think it does any good for him to be throwing out the treason word, or we're going to prosecute you, or you're going to be going to jail. You know, offering up concessions to these individuals and meeting them halfway is probably the better approach.
But Greg, at this moment in time, when Trump keeps saying such damaging things about Canadian sovereignty, I think the idea that there are separatists in Alberta who are willing to meet with the American government, that there are others who are, waving an Alberta flag instead of a Canadian flag, I think it really disturbs a lot of other people across the country. What would you say to those who are disturbed by all of this?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I think Alberta is a province in which often people identify as being Albertan, sometimes before being Canadian, similar to likely the sentiment in Quebec. And so I can see it being a bit of a divisive sort of feeling when Albertans might be going down to the United States and saying, hey, listen, help us out. But at the end of the day, the underlying grievances do not change. And there's a way to sort of bridge that gap, and the way that David Eby is doing it is not going to bridge it.
Greg Dunn, criminal defense lawyer in Calgary, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you, Ian.